Okay, um, I'm gonna be fucking around with Halium today, and I'm gonna record it so that people can sort of figure out how to do this stuff. Um, yeah. Okay. Off to a really truly stellar start. Okay, now it's important to note that this command repo is from Ubuntu's Phablet Tools project. Cool. Um, yeah. So you're gonna have a little bit of trouble if you don't install Phablet Tools first. Okay. Now, the tool that I'm going to be using Android device LDE Macro. Um, cool. Alright, so I'm looking for lineage.dependencies. Cool. Fucking hell. Fucking hell. Um, okay. Device specific files. These enable the build system to make Android for your device. If there's any part for you to make a mistake on, this will be the one. Alright, got that. Create the directory. Um, Yeah. Why am I doing that as root? That's stupid. It's a good way to fuck up ownership. Um. Fuck. Of course, I still need to edit it. What the hell? I can't see how anyone could stuff this up. Device LGE Maco. The fuck is repository name? So I was planning on just like working on this for an hour and then uploading that. The fuck? What the fuck? What's the revision? What's the revision though? Name, location, fetch prefix, code review server, and default revision branch / tag for source. You can create a remote by adding a remote tag to your manifest. Fucking hell. Remote lineage OS, I guess. Revision. Yeah, let's call that default. Let's see if that works. Dependencies. Now create more lines like the previous. Using the cyanogen mod.depend or lineage.dependencies. Does that also go in just wait, I'm gonna fuck this up and then somebody's going to comment on the video, oh, there's just like a default for macro, you can just use that. Very easy. Target path. go name. And we'll also have the default revision. And that also means we need why has that one got underscores but everything else has dashes? Alright, cool. That looks right to me, I think. Shit, where was I? Fuck. Alright. Save. Yep. Okay, vendor blobs. Okay. The Muppets GitHub organization. I wonder if this is entirely legal. I'm going to assume that the 14.1 branch of this is fine. Alright, this is going to take a while on Aussie Internet. Wait, vendor. Shit. Yeah, alright. I'm just gonna clone the whole lot because it's gonna take ages. Maybe. I don't know, maybe it's all really tiny. Um, if anyone knows of like a faster way to just get like a specific folder in a Git repository, I'd love to know it, because that'd be really handy. So, yeah, what I'm doing here is I'm downloading the driver source for the handset, which is the Nexus 4. And obviously I need that to build Halium, which is an image that sort of, like, it just encapsulates the HAL layer in the Android stack, um, and lets you put Linux on top of it in like an LXC container. Is that a tautology? I don't know. Yeah, it just encapsulates the HAL layer, and what it's supposed to do is provide a common base for every Linux distribution that wants to target phones, but there's not that many Linux distributions that want to target phones. But I figure it'd be an interesting piece of technology to muck about with, because just recently Librem announced the Librem 5, which was going to be a smartphone that runs GNOME, and I don't particularly want to buy more hardware, 'cause it's all pretty pricey. So, yeah, if GNOME's going to start supporting smartphones, then it's quite likely to get a port to Halium anyway, so I might as well muck about with it. This isn't the first time I've had a play with Linux on smartphones. I've been trying to get it going since like 2014, and it's very slow going. And I've heard all the arguments against it, that it's like never going to go anywhere without Snapchat, and you're probably right. Like 100%, like Mastodon and Matrix are not great platforms for sharing like nudie photos. But on the other hand, 10 years time, 20 years time, it'll probably be like a viable third option. I think the main issue is that most people want to most companies want to develop it as something that they can make, a deal with a handset company as like a software partner, and that kind of fucked up for everybody, because they never really reached feature parity with Android, and they never had the money to ever like chase Android. So they kind of screwed themselves there, and they definitely couldn't, they were never going to get big enough to be given source code to like help bring stuff to their platform. So, it never really took off. Firefox OS never really took off. Sailfish, I think they're working with Sony at the moment, but that's only after like their own hardware sort of fell through, and you can't get the sources to their desktop or whatever. It's not really a desktop. You can't get the sources to the Sailfish interface, and you can't set that up on Ubuntu. KDE Plasma Mobile is very unstable at the moment, and not really ready for prime time. And Ubuntu pulled out of the handset market after... what was it? Was it BQ? Well, they made a handset. Was it Maitsu? Here we go. Yeah, Ubuntu made some partnership with Maitsu, a Chinese handset producer, and that kind of fell through. Because over and over, they're trying to like create a first party software, and you can't really compete with the first party software guys, because they've got a whole team of developers ready to do all the boring shit, and you can't really get bozos on GitHub to do boring shit. What you can convince bozos on GitHub to do is spend ages writing Arch. So, yeah. I think the Linux distro that succeeds on phones is going to be the one that offers multiple interfaces and is generally the most fun to develop for and probably the easiest to customize. And also the one that like focuses on the experiences like a custom ROM and goes, you know, we're a custom ROM, we're not going to try and get a hardware partnership because that's going to really fuck us over in the long run. And I think it's going to be based on Halium because Halium is really providing the possibility to start building ROMs for multiple handsets, possibly on Travis. Nobody's actually really done it though, which is part of the reason why I'm documenting building this, because well, not really documenting. It's part of the reason why I'm recording building this software, because you know, sort of demonstrates what goes into it. So if somebody actually wants to set up a build server and start producing nightly binaries, you know, how to do it when you're just one person will be obvious. So the build server stuff will probably become pretty obvious. And like, I got a mate with a server, and he might be interested in like making something that gets a lot of traffic, because he's always trying to stress test the damn things. But you know, everyone's trying to get attention on the internet, get clicks, get money. So you know, how do you actually strain your server and your internet connection? This would be so much quicker if I didn't download every driver for every handset that LG ever made, but fuck it. I got like 40 minutes left, so we might even get the build started on this video, because, you know, I'm only going to record for an hour. But I will try and get the entire process. Just maybe leave off halfway through some kind of batch command. But I'm going to skip over boring stuff like making a backup of the Nexus 4. I don't know if I even need a backup. I could probably flush most of this. The interesting part is going to be selecting a Linux distro. Now, currently, UB ports or UB ports or whatever is based on Ubuntu from 2015, I think, and the next version of it was going to be based on Ubuntu from 2016. But it might make more sense to try and base this stuff off Ubuntu 18.04, which I think is Bionic, whenever that drops, like around April. So obviously this is going to go slowly, because I'm just going to start with the reference issues. I'm going to start with the reference images that Bhushan Shah actually set up, and just learn all the debug processes for it. And then we're going to try and install GNOME 3, which everybody has told me is like way too heavy. But I think it was Rob Clark, one of the Freedreno developers. He's demonstrated GNOME 3 on Nexus 4. So that's what I want to try and get done. And then either I'm going to learn how to make plugins for that, or I'm going to try and use the version of libmutter that works with Freedreno. to write some sort of window managery thing. That's getting way ahead of myself. And yeah, it's never going to have Snapchat, so it's probably never going to be my daily driver. But, you know, maybe somebody else has a different handset, and if I get this stuff working, they can have a shot at getting it working on their one and generally fixing my fucking shitty code. Fucking hell, 7%. I'm thinking I should have downloaded this first. Maybe I'll chop this bit out. Stuff it. I'll show off some of the other cool stuff. Alright, UB ports. What's that? Let's use this. Yeah, I'm really hammering the internet. Like, could be that, like, this takes another half an hour. And I waste all that time. Alright, Librem 5. Everyone's heard about it. They raised $2.2 million to make a smartphone with GNOME on it. Like, I think their roadmap, I don't know where their roadmap is, but if you look for their roadmap, they're not really gonna get started with it for like another month or two. Which is frustrating. Because GNOME announced a partnership with them. And nobody's released any sort of project files or bug tracking or anything for GNOME as a mobile OS. And that's frustrating, because kind of want to use GNOME. That's KDE Plasma Mobile, and this was clearly made in Blender. They want to do everything over VoIP. Basically, if you're looking at this, you've probably already heard about the Librem 5, and you probably already know about Matrix and shit. And you've probably got no idea why the fuck they would put like the Twitter and fucking Insta and YouTube logos on here, because they're just going to whinge about how you should get the app when the app doesn't work when you... Yeah, crowdfunding is pretty sleazy, because like more than half of the technology they're talking about here doesn't exist at all. Yeah, so the pure OS stuff isn't even going to happen for a while. Which kind of sucks. Um, yeah, and that doesn't look like a phone yet at all. And that definitely doesn't look like a phone interface. But it could all just be implemented as GNOME 3 plugins, which means that pretty much anybody already running it on a tablet is going to get all the tablet enhancements that they come up with. And the dialer and all that shit. UB ports. These guys are using Unity 7, I think, which is a Qt interface that Ubuntu developed and then decided to shit can, essentially because they weren't in a market position like Apple or Android, and it was looking like they couldn't even take the low-end smartphone market, which I guess they wanted because I guess being a custom ROM company after CyanogenMod tanked is not a great place to be. But on the other hand, CyanogenMod kind of shot themselves in the foot. Like, there was rumors that Nintendo approached them and they told them to F off, so could have done the software for the Switch and they could still be making bank. Post-market OS. These guys seem pretty interesting, but they're not shipping images, so that's the fucking point. If you're gonna build it yourself, you might as well build whatever you want. They're basing theirs off Alpine Linux, which I guess is pretty cool. I've heard it's pretty minimal, but mostly I've seen it used within container formats like Docker. Again, like, it's cool, but they don't actually have an interface project. And apparently they've only been running since May this year. Plasma Mobile, Hilden. I believe that's GTK based, but it's very, very old GTK. So that would, I think, be running Matchbox, which was Mutter on X on like GTK2 or something. I don't know. Like, it's very old. Like, you almost just want to build the modern GNOME shell on ARM. And I think I've seen it running on ARM. Fucking hell. I had a Bravo. Screen smashed, and I don't think you can buy the screen anymore. But, you know. %. So maybe this is more of an like intro video where I talk about the like Linux ecosystem. Maybe this would be better as a stream, but like the issue is that my internet is just not good enough to stream, and probably get looked at like a weirdo if I spend all my time talking about open source mobile operating systems that don't exist yet at the fucking library. But yeah, 20 more minutes. God, my internet's slow. try and put in another hour of this, like, sometime this week. Maybe, like, Thursday. Thursday I'll put another hour in and upload that. Yeah, HTC Desire. I had that. Fucking hell. I really love that phone. But yeah, it's not really a mobile interface, is it? Yeah, it'd be interesting if people like posted comments just asking about mobile operating systems, like mobile Linux operating systems. Actually, Sailfish. What are they up to? So these guys are really interesting. Because they gave out a fully Linux operating system, but you can't actually get the interface to boot up on anything but their like distro. And it seemed like a pain in the ass to get their distro because it's not really developed in the open. But on the other hand, it's like butter smooth, even on like old handsets like the Nexus 4. But huh. But on the other hand, it's got this like intuitiveness. It's like when people say it's intuitive, what they mean is that it's different. Um, and the thing about being different in the mobile handset space is that when you get right down to it, there's a reason why Android and iOS are so similar. And that is people can just pick them up and use them. Because they got the same set of metaphors. And they don't have stupid shit that isn't telegraphed, like, you know, swiping off one side of the screen to get back to the home screen and stuff. Which is frustrating because it really feels like multitasking is like a core part of Sailfish. But on the other hand, it would be nice if it had a panel at the top of the screen with the time and the remaining battery. So if you're like browsing the web on your break at work, you can see when you have to get back on shift. And it's like that sort of like basic stuff that they remove and then say this is intuitive is really frustrating. Who else can I talk shit on? Yeah, I think these came out. These are really cool. I think they came out like 2014 or something. And there was this idea that there was going to be like a mobile version of Elementary based on the mobile version of Ubuntu. And then the mobile version of Ubuntu was not a lot like desktop Ubuntu. So it had an early version of snaps called clicks, and it locked the Debian partition, so you couldn't really develop on it the same way, and it didn't have PPAs or stuff like that, and you needed to register an account to use the App Store, and it generally just did not feel like desktop Linux. And I think part of that was because they were going for a commercial ROM and not a custom ROM sort of thing, so they weren't going... It wasn't designed to appeal to Linux power users. Of course, power users don't exist now. It wasn't designed to appeal to geeks. Philosophically. And that makes a lot of sense because there aren't that many geeks and they're not really a massive market. They don't have a shitload of market power. They can't carry your product. But on the other hand, if you are making a smartphone OS that is necessarily going to be inferior to the commercial projects that everyone thinks is Linux anyway, you really need to justify this, and you need to get the geeks, because the geeks are the early adopters and they create the platform. So you look at the Android 2.0 software, 90% of it is terrible stuff for dealing with the Unix sort of subsystems. So you had things like Logcat and a bad Android style interface for PS or stuff like that. And that's not very useful for day-to-day users that just want sophisticated communications apps like Twitter. But on the other hand, it's having this developer-oriented software that creates the sort of platform. But Ubuntu, they weren't really interested. That's the wrong way to say it. They didn't want to be a developer platform forever, I think. They wanted to make something that was a bit more idiot-proof and something that was a bit more locked down and something that was not going to break and you'd have to reformat over and over again. And that meant people that were familiar with desktop software development on Ubuntu were not really set up to do software development on the phone, and then it also chewed battery life real quickly and didn't have a shitload of good apps. And I did not enjoy Ubuntu Touch. But, and I'm rambling because I'm trying to fill 40 minutes because I didn't expect getting the firmware to take this long, because I didn't realize I had to get the firmware. In fact, this is probably the most pointless video. Should have written... I suppose if I'd written a script I would have fucked up, because I didn't know I had to get the firmware. Yeah, well, basically mobile Linux sucks, but I'm going to dig its depths. I'm not going to get this done today, so I think I'm going to stop here. A lot of people have made sort of exploratory jumps into Linux on handsets. I gave a quick sort of rundown on some of the projects. Here, GNOME Mobile and Embedded. Yeah, since 2007, so 10 fucking years, and all we have is Ubuntu Touch, Plasma Mobile, which doesn't work and doesn't ship images. And Sailfish OS, which sporadically supported the Nexus 4, Nexus 5, and now the Sony Xperia, and their own handset, which they abandoned. So, oh, and there was also the Nokia N900 or something, which I think is the progenitor of Sailfish OS. But yeah, Matchbox. That was the GNOME one. Yeah, Sailfish. You had some work by Nokia, which was the progenitor of Sailfish OS, because Nokia got bought by Microsoft. So we're kind of getting left behind here, and I think the basic issue with it is that most companies that want to push Linux forward are specifically interested in making hardware deals, and traditionally Linux has been pretty terrible at making hardware deals. Like, we got Dell, and that's it. Even System 76 are sort of backing out of, supporting Ubuntu, and are choosing to make their own distro to, I guess, make it so that they control the interface, just because they got screwed on Unity. Yeah, we're bad at hardware deals because like everybody who makes hardware ends up spinning their own distro. So why not go after the secondhand Android handset market? And that's what Halium's doing, and I think it's probably the best idea. Because everybody that uses Halium is going to be fairly knowledgeable with Linux, and we might actually be able to make something that's good, and then eventually work on the onboarding experience. And that's the main reason why we're going for handset deals, is that, they want a good onboarding experience, because they think flashing 3 or 4 different ROMs with fast boot is too easy for normies to fuck up. But normies aren't even interested in Linux-based handset operating systems or Linux-based mobile phone operating systems, because they don't have Snapchat. So, I guess the first hurdle to overcome is the lack of distros targeting handsets, and then the second hurdle to overcome is the lack of nudes. And I think Halium is probably the best project so far, in that it already has 2 projects using it as middleware, using it as a like hardware abstraction layer. Maybe 2018 is when we're going to actually see these projects set up, Travis CI, and start shipping like nightly images for multiple handsets. Maybe not. But that's what it's going to take. And I'm going to be back on Thursday, when I should have all the fucking firmware to continue trying to build it on my Nexus 4. And I should also have the Nexus 4 cleared. So if you can finish a build in an hour on Thursday, then fuck yeah, we should see something a bit more exciting than this. So sorry for the disappointment, but considering only like 6 people are going to watch this video, not super upset. Okay, pausing it now. See you guys.